right now I said that there are $2 trillion of cash bills, a lot of those in hundreds stored in pillowcases in, countries where the stewardship of the government is so bad that the citizens are worried that their hard-earned labor is going to evaporate. And so they've traditionally kept it in $100 bills. As that switches to stable coins or Bitcoin, but let's just talk stable coins, great. As that switches to stable coins that pay interest, which are happening overseas already, better.
The internet's 52 years old and there's still cool stuff coming out all the time, right? And so when everyone's like, there's no killer app of Bitcoin or whatever. No, Bitcoin's the killer app of Bitcoin, right? There are 300 million people already use it to store money, move value. And so it's going to be a progression. There's no light switch. Not like one thing's going to happen and it's going to change the world. All you need to operate Bitcoin or crypto is a smartphone. There are 4 billion people to have one of those.
Hold on, this isn't just another hype piece. Crypto titans Mike Novogratz and Dan Morehead reveal why we're at the edge of a financial revolution. As the world goes digital, traditional stores of value like cash and gold are losing their grip, and Bitcoin is stepping in to take over. In unstable economies, it's already the ultimate safeguard for wealth. But here's the real shocker, there's $2 trillion in cash sitting idle worldwide, much of it hidden in unsafe places. And it's all shifting into digital asset. With over 300 million Bitcoin users, this tidal wave of capital could send Bitcoin soaring, fundamentally reshaping the global economy. The potential for explosive growth is undeniable, but challenges lie ahead. Mike and Dan dive deep into the shocking possibilities of this crypto-driven future and the obstacles it must overcome. This is the debate that could change everything.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Is it surreal from where you start? Did you think we would get to 100K?
I was really focused on getting to 1,000, and that's what I saw. I actually said it in the FT in October of 2013. There's an article. It's the only time I was on the cover of the FT. Fortress's Novogratz says Bitcoin is a great investment, and
yeah,
I can flash that when people call me a shitcoiner. I can flash my article. And it got to 1,000. Chinese were buying, and I remember really wanting to sell because I could buy a jet, and I've never had a jet. And our third partner was like, "You're crazy. You can't sell this." And we didn't buy it to make 10x our money. We bought it because it's going to be, much higher. One day you'll build a library. Forget a jet. And he actually bought a bunch of Bitcoin on Fortress's balance sheet, which in essence blocked me from selling. Because if legally I could have sold, I would look like an asshole if I'm selling as one of the partners and the company's buying. And so, and like I thought, it went from 1,200 back to 200.
It didn't come back up until, that was like 4.5-year bear market.
But I tell you what, this is a true story. I know in every bone of my body, if I had sold at 1,000 and when it went back to 200, I'd have bought a tiny amount. Once you start the process of selling, it's easy to keep selling. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't sell any. I wish I had all my Bitcoin I started with. I don't. That jet's very expensive.
Yeah.
Look back on it. I don't regret it. But it's really interesting how hard it is to hold these things. And so what's unique about crypto is we're finance guys. And so while Dan's probably got more of a religious zealous around this thing because he told the story more, I love this space, but we're still finance guys that grew up understanding markets. So many people in this space, this has been their obsession, and they just don't sell. Mm-hmm. We have clients or know of people that have giant piles of Bitcoin, and it's almost irrational that they don't diversify, and they are not parting with their coins. They see their net worth in how many Bitcoins they have, not in how many dollars they have. I think it could replace gold just through adoption, right? We are going through the largest wealth transfer in the history of the world, right? Baby boomers are going to die, sadly enough, and they're going to pass that money to the next generation, right? As that happens, my kids, their friends, my younger kids and their friends, they're online people. Mm-hmm. And so digital gold is going to be better than gold for them. So I just think that's a natural progression that happens with time, right, and adoption. You got to keep orange pilling people, and then it's going to be Bitcoin relative to gold. And so, gold's market cap is, looked at it, 16 trillion, and Bitcoin is, 2 trillion, a little less than 2 trillion. And so there's kind of 8x, right? You get close to $1 million.
It doesn't feel like it's that far away, really.
And that could be 10 years, right? I pray it doesn't happen in some ways faster, because if you would see a hyper acceleration of Bitcoin, you would only see it because you would see a hyper devaluation of the dollar. And when you see what happens to countries whose currencies become toilet paper, right? Civil society breaks, rule of law breaks. I mean, you could just point to Venezuela or, recently, or Zimbabwe, or what's happened in like even Turkey, Nigeria. You really don't want to live in a country whose currency is plunging.
I have a $1 trillion bill from Zaire on my desk, right? So that can happen.
And I don't think we will use Bitcoin to buy our Coca-Cola or fancy T-shirts, sneakers, or nice black dress shirt you got there.
Thank you.
I don't. I think we use stable coins, but again, we're in a really weird political populist on the left, populist on the right, and so we'll see. I'm praying for Scott Bessent. What's also interesting is you're going to see the same journey that every crypto person takes. They start with Bitcoin, they understand it, and then they move into Ethereum, and they start figuring out what stable coins are, and now meme coins. They look into the space. It's just going down the rabbit hole was the original expression. Institutions and governments are going to do. And right now I said that there are $2 trillion of cash bills, a lot of those in hundreds stored in pillowcases, and countries where the stewardship of the government is so bad that the citizens are worried that their hard-earned labor is going to evaporate. And so they've traditionally kept it in $100 bills. As that switches to stable coins or Bitcoin, but let's just talk stable coins, great. As that switches to stable coins that pay interest, which are happening overseas already, better. And so it's not just a kind of an intellectual game. It's a life-changing thing for people to be able to, in the Gambia or Zambia or Venezuela, take their hard-earned labor, convert it into a dollar or a Bitcoin, get paid interest on it, stake it if it's Ethereum, and actually have financial inclusion on your phone. Yeah. Even in places like the U.S., where our payment systems work pretty well, so I think we're going to see less payment adoption here because Apple Pay is pretty freaking good. We still have a ton underbanked. And if we start cracking that door open, like the efficiency gains, are gonna start accruing to people that traditionally get screwed. Right, there are $8 billion a year in banking overdraft charges. All of that goes to poor people, and so there is something very progressive about this libertarian movement, right? I always thought crypto was as much progressive as libertarian.
I think so.
Because it's supposed to bring access with less friction to the masses.
Novogratz revealed that for many in the industry, holding on to Bitcoin is no longer just about its monetary value, it has become an obsession, a belief in its revolutionary potential. But here's where it gets even more controversial. He believes Bitcoin could eventually displace gold as the dominant store of value. Yes, you heard that right, Bitcoin could dethrone gold, the precious metal that has symbolized wealth for thousands of years. While gold's market capitalization sits at a staggering $2 trillion, Bitcoin is rapidly catching up, already surpassing $2 trillion itself. Dan Morehead, another giant in the crypto space, took the debate even further with explosive predictions. He pointed out that over 300 million people worldwide already use Bitcoin to store and transfer value, and that number is only growing. With Bitcoin adoption accelerating, its role in the financial system is becoming impossible to ignore. What's even more significant is the shift in accessibility. Today, more than 4 billion people own a smartphone, meaning access to cryptocurrencies is no longer a barrier. Financial inclusion is no longer a distant dream, it's within reach for nearly everyone on the planet. Now, let's take a look at more insights from Dan Morehead.
What's the promised land look like to you? Any different ideas?
Yeah, I think one perspective is the internet's 52 years old and there's still cool stuff coming out all the time, right? And so when everyone's like, oh, there's no killer app of Bitcoin or whatever. No, Bitcoin's the killer app of Bitcoin, right? There are 300 million people already use it to store money, move value. And so it's going to be a progression. There's no light switch. Not like one thing's going to happen and it's going to change the world. But all you need to operate Bitcoin or crypto is a smartphone. There are 4 billion people to have one of those. 2.5 billion of those photos share on Facebook, right? And that's, it's cool and all, but like financial inclusion for everybody on earth is more important. So easy under 10 years, you're going to have several billion people, 2, 3, something like that, using blockchain. And, that'll be impacting all kinds of, things we currently do. Gold's such a great benchmark. That's actually literally, what I said in our first memo, and I invited Nathaniel Popper to our first summit and created the digital gold book and everything. Mm-hmm. It's a great analog, right? Like it is going to replace gold. I think it's super fascinating that President Trump's proposing a Bitcoin strategic reserve to replace gold, which is totally rational, right? If you're the reserve currency of the world, you have to save in something. There's no other currencies, so we've been using gold for a long time. The U.S. stores 11 million years of workers' wages in gold under a stone pyramid in Kentucky. Pretty much the same as the pharaohs 40 centuries ago, right? It's so antiquated. So I'm a huge fan of storing in digital gold, and the U.S. should do it. I think a lot of our allies will do it. And then huge one is I think a lot of our adversaries are going to realize they got to do it too, because they don't want to be sitting there with $2 trillion of their entire life savings stored in a note that the U.S. Treasury Secretary can cancel, right? So I think that's all coming. And so 8x to Bitcoin market cap of gold, super easy to do, right? And that sounds crazy, right? In normal securities market standards, right?
Right.
But like, the fund that Mike and I invested in a long time ago, it's gone up 3 orders of magnitude. Like one more, it just doesn't seem that hard. The U.S. partisan battle really got Bitcoin upside down. It's the progressive's dream. And I listed out like 15 features of Bitcoin, financial inclusion for 4 billion people. It's, there's no boundaries, no borders. Anyone can use it, no discrimination, 24/7, free to store your wealth, all those things. If anyone adopted it, it should have been the progressive, right? It's so wonderful. And it's on our Twitter feed if people want to read it, because it is so compelling, because it should be bipartisan like any technology. Like the cell phone is not partisan, but to the extent anyone needs to make things partisan, like it's a really cool progressive thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And Mike's point on wealth transfer, I think, is super important. 90% of the wealth in the United States is in people 70 or older, right?
90%.
That's crazy.
And that is not fair or whatever. And I think the thing that politicians are realizing is the majority of Americans are under 40. They love crypto and they vote, right? And so it's totally changing the dynamics
That
here.
was the biggest shift.
Everyone's privacy is so important. Google reads all your Gmail, right? Like no one cares about privacy. They don't really. People love to say it. Their entire business models read every private communication you send and sell you crap that matches what you're telling your friends you want to do, right? And so while there are some people that really care about privacy and they really should use a non-government issued currency, my mom wants to use FedCoin, right? Like she doesn't care. Like, and so my only point is every real country is going to have a stablecoin, right? Like the UK.
But you can have a stablecoin that runs on a public blockchain versus a stablecoin that runs on a private blockchain owned by the government.
Sure. I'm just saying it is a absolute and complete reality that every real country will have a central bank digital currency, and the longer the U.S. waits, the less the more Red Army coin takes over, right? I say, the deficit is supposed to be countercyclical. Is, when you're in a recession, you should have a deficit to stimulate the economy, and then theoretically, like Mike said, you're supposed to run a surplus, which has only happened once. If you're running 7% in literally the best of times, there's nothing better that could be happening right now. It just seems like something bad's going to happen someday. I don't know what it is, but like we're at full employment. Everything's great. Stock market's all-time high. Everything's all-time high. If we're running 7% deficit, something bad's going to happen. And that would be my argument. And Mike said, I like to zoom out. I do like to zoom out on this one. The little tariff tantrums here and there, I don't know. I have no insight if it's going to be good or bad or whatever. But if you zoom out in any kind of multi-year time frame, 1 or 2, 3, 4 years, people are going to want to escape paper money that's being debased at a really rapid rate and go into hard assets like real estate, stocks, gold even, or digital gold, right? And so that's the trade in getting out of paper money. And you're talking about the Zimbabwe dollar. Yeah, it's one of the worst paper currencies. But the U.S., we debased our currency 8% in 2021, and everyone's like 3-something. Oh, that's cool. You do that your entire life, it's 90% of your wealth is gone, right?
Bitcoin's growth has been nothing short of meteoric, with adoption skyrocketing to new heights. The question is, how high can it go? Before jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon, it's important to acknowledge the volatility that still plagues the market. Bitcoin's price swings are legendary, and a recent major exchange hack has only fueled uncertainty. Market capitalization recently dipped to $1.83 trillion, and with the U.S. Federal Reserve's cautious stance on inflation, economic uncertainty continues to cast a shadow over its trajectory. While Bitcoin's dominance over other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Solana has grown, it remains vulnerable to sudden shift. For investors, the real question is Bitcoin still the safe haven it's believed to be, or is it a high-stakes gamble? Crypto giants Mike Novogratz and Dan Morehead argue that Bitcoin's long-term growth will be driven by its expanding user base, currently over 300 million people using it as a store of value. But Bitcoin's real power lies in its accessibility, especially in developing countries where traditional banking is unreliable. With just a smartphone, billions of people can now bypass traditional financial systems and participate in the global economy, something that was unimaginable just a decade ago. However, external pressures like the Bybit hack and the Fed's economic policies have put the crypto market under intense pressure, exposing the fragility of the ecosystem. Morehead's bold prediction that Bitcoin will replace gold as the ultimate store of value may seem far-fetched, especially given the market's instability. But the same volatility that makes Bitcoin unpredictable also makes it a ticking time bomb. One global financial crisis, one massive regulatory crackdown, and Bitcoin's price could spiral in any direction. As we move deeper into 2025, the world is watching closely, waiting for the explosion that could make or break the future of digital currencies. What do you think? Is Bitcoin the future of money, or a speculative bubble waiting to burst? Let us know in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.